All right, let's jump right in. Picture a massive, powerful empire. We're talking cities, built in the clouds, millions of people, and engineering that could give the Romans a run for their money. Now, what if I told you they built all of it without a single coin? Today, we are diving into the incredible and seemingly impossible economy of the Inca. So, how on earth did they do it? This isn't just a quirky piece of history. It really challenges our most basic ideas about how an economy is supposed to work. The Inca forced us to ask a really big question. What is value, anyway? And make no mistake, it was an absolute marvel. The Inca Empire, which its own people called Tawantinsuyu, stretched all the way down the Andes Mountains and ruled over something like 12 million people. And as this quote from Gordon McEwen points out, they managed all this without stuff we think of as essential. No wheel, no written alphabet. It's just incredible. So, if they didn't have cash, what was the alternative? Well, the answer lies in a totally different way of looking at economics. It wasn't about buying and selling. It was all about social contracts, relationships, and what you owed to your community. This slide really nails the difference. See, we live in a market economy. It's all about private ownership and individuals using money to buy and sell stuff. The Inca economy, completely centralized. The state, headed by the Sapa Inca, their god king, owned literally everything. The state gave you security, food, clothes, and even threw big parties. And what did you get back? The one thing that powered the whole empire, your labor. And this whole social contract had a name, reciprocity. At the very top of the pyramid was the Sapa Inca. He was considered the divine son of the sun. And that wasn't just a fancy title, it was the foundation of the entire economy. Because he was a god, he owned all the land, all the llamas, everything. His people were just given access to these resources in exchange for their work and their loyalty. What held this whole system together was an incredibly strict moral code. These 3 rules weren't just friendly suggestions, they were the law. And check out that last one, do not be lazy. That directly connects to the economy. Contributing your labor wasn't just a good idea, it was a fundamental moral duty. Okay, so this leads to the next big question. If labor was the real currency, how did the state measure it? How did they collect it? And how did they use it to build, well, everything? The answer was a system called the mita. Think of it as the Inca version of taxes. But instead of giving the government a chunk of your paycheck, you gave them a chunk of your time. This collective workforce built everything. They farmed the state's lands, they built cities like Cusco, they constructed that massive road network, and they served in the army. And this table is just fascinating. It shows you just how deeply this idea of labor-based value was woven into their society. A person's whole life was defined by their ability to contribute. From a little kid scaring birds away from the crops, to a full adult paying their mita, all the way to an elder who is expected to give advice. Every single stage of life had a productive role to play. So let's think about this. You've got millions of people spread across a huge empire, all contributing labor. How do you possibly keep track of all that without spreadsheets or even a written language? Well, the Inca solution was nothing short of genius. To solve what seems like an impossible administrative puzzle, the Inca didn't use paper. They used a totally unique and incredibly clever tool to manage all their data. This is the quipu. Now, I know it might look like some knotted strings, but don't be fooled. This was an incredibly complex information storage device. It was basically the hard drive of the Inca Empire. Using a base 10 system, the type of knot, its position, and the color of the string could record huge amounts of data. Census numbers, how much labor someone owed, what was in the warehouses, you name it. And all that data from the quipus fed into this brilliantly simple system for managing people. It was a decimal-based hierarchy. Society was organized into units of households, groups of 10, 100, 1,000, and so on. Each group had an official, a caraca, who was responsible for making sure the mita, that labor tax, was collected from everyone. And this entire administrative machine was scaled up to govern the whole empire, which they had neatly divided into 4 huge regions, or suyu, with their capital, Cusco, sitting right at the very center of their world. Okay, so you're managing millions of people and redistributing goods across the Andes Mountains, some of the most difficult terrain on Earth. To pull that off, you need some serious infrastructure. And what the Inca built was, well, it was one of the greatest engineering projects in history. This was the Capac Ñan, the Great Inca Road. But calling it just a road really doesn't do it justice. This was the empire's circulatory system. It was the physical network that made their entire moneyless economy actually work. I mean, we are talking about a network that spanned over 40,000 kilometers. And it was way more than just a path. It was the logistical backbone of the empire. All along the road, they had massive storehouses called kulkas, packed with food and supplies. They had rest stops called tumbos, and they had relay runners, the chaskis, who could deliver messages at incredible speeds. This system is what allowed the state to move goods and feed its people. So all of this brings up a really fascinating question. In a society that has no money, what does it even mean to be wealthy? It's definitely not about having a fat bank account. And this is the crucial part. Wealth wasn't about what you owned. It was about who you were in the social hierarchy. For the Inca nobles, power came directly from the Sapa Inca. He might grant you the rights to more land and the labor of the people on it, or give you access to really high-status goods, like beautiful textiles or rare seashells, things a common person could never get. It was a system built on favor and loyalty, not finance. And that's really the key takeaway here. The Inca built this incredibly powerful empire not by controlling gold or silver coins, but by controlling what they saw as the true source of all value: human labor. They organized it, they taxed it, and they redistributed the products of that labor on a truly massive scale. And that leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. The entire Inca system put the stability of the group above the profit of the individual. In our world, which is so driven by markets and money, their incredible moneyless empire really forces us to stop and think about what we truly value and whether our way is the only way to measure it.